The question now is that the amendment be agreed to, and I call the honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker, and I commend the member for Flynn for his interest in re-refining of oil. And we just heard a very wide-ranging speech from the member for Flynn in his true style. He talked about the bill before us. He also talked about racing, and I know his Galloper Territory is running in Sydney this weekend, and may it well win. But certainly oil used to be used to smooth down racetracks. I know the member for Flynn has more than a passing interest in racing, and he certainly has more than a passing interest in his electorate of Flynn and the progress thereof. And I very much welcome joining him at Yarwun on March 12 this year, where indeed the Wagga Wagga-based company Southern Oil's expanded into the city of Gladstone, and that came about as a result of some concerted lobbying by both the member for Flynn and I to see this fantastic Riverina company expand. And it does, as the member for Flynn pointed out, re-refine oil. And a good friend of both the member for Flynn, Ken O'Dowd, and myself is Tim Rose, the Southern Oil Managing Director, who has expanded his operations and now calling it Northern Oil. And they're doing a great job. The Northern Oil Refinery opened, as I said, on March 12, and the Queensland Minister for Environment and Heritage Protection, Andrew Powell, joined the Federal Minister for Industry, Ian Macfarlane, the member for Groom, as well as the member for Flynn and I at the opening. And what a novelty! We had an LNP Minister for the Environment and a Commonwealth Minister for Industry coming together to celebrate, to commemorate, to open an industry. That wouldn't have happened under Labor, would it, member for Flynn? No, it wouldn't have happened. And you know, what a shame that sort of cooperation didn't happen when we talked about the Murray-Darling Basin. What a shame when the Prime Minister, the then Prime Minister, went to Goolwa to announce additional water for South Australia prior to the last election before she was knifed by the member for Griffith. What a shame that she didn't take the Agriculture Minister with her at that particular time, because it's these sorts of this sort of collaboration, this sort of cooperation between industry and environment, something that our own Minister for the Environment, who has just joined us at the table, is so interested in doing, to get out of the way and to make sure that these industries, with the right restrictions in place, get on with the job of making sure that Australia is open for business. And I know the many projects that the Minister for the Environment in the Abbott Trust Coalition has approved, has given the tick of approval to. And he, like the member for Groom, our Minister for Industry, and like the Queensland Minister for the Environment, certainly very much in approval of this Northern Oil Refinery. And it goes to the heart of this particular legislation before us, the Excise Tariff Amendment, Product Stewardship for Oil Bill 2014, Customs Tariff Amendment, Product Stewardship for Oil Bill 2014, which is there to ensure the environmentally sustainable management, re-refining and reuse of used oil, and to support economic recycling options for used oil. The scheme currently operates by offering a subsidy for the proper recycling of old oils, funded by a 5.44 cent per litre levy on new oil or kilogram of grease sales, as the member for Flynn indicated. In 2013-14, the scheme is estimated to run a deficit of about $10 million, and this is expected to grow. The benefit for Category 8 oils provides a refund mechanism for producers of oils which are specifically declared by the Minister for the Environment, the good minister at the table, because they do not create a recyclable used oil stream and are low risk to the environment. In the last parliament, all we ever heard about with the environment was what the Greens wanted. It was a Labor led by the nose by the Greens. Everything was at the behest of the Greens, and industry was being held up. Business was being stymied at every turn by the Labor-Greens alliance. And it was so refreshing to hear Mr Rose at the opening on March 12 in Gladstone, member for Flynn's electorate, talk about what a unique event he was attending. You are here to help Southern Oil and JJ Richards and Sons launch a project which represents an investment in manufacturing, an investment in regional Australia and an investment in a better environmental future, Mr Rose said. It will be a day the joint venture partners it won't be a day the joint venture partners will forget. We hope for all of you it will be something to remember, to be at the start of a new industrial enterprise, and indeed it was. At a time in Australia where much of the news is about how tough it is, particularly in manufacturing, we have stood up and committed to a significant investment in the future. Indeed they have. An investment that is pumping millions of dollars into the member for Flynn's electorate and dozens of jobs into that very vibrant city of Gladstone, a city that is going ahead in leaps and bounds under his stewardship, under the member for Flynn's representation. Now, the plant and equipment that was installed on the site is state-of-the-art. I'm very proud to say that it's been painted in a colour, a mustardy colour, which Tim Rose calls Wagga wheat, Wagga wheat. Resembling the wonderful wheat fields in my electorate. Now, to the uninitiated, as Tim Rose pointed out, lube oil may not sound too sexy, but it is essential. As we heard the member for Flynn say, it's the stuff that keeps your cars running, planes in the air, mining and farming equipment going. It literally lubricates the wheels of commerce and industry right here in Australia. Lubricating oil doesn't wear out, it just gets dirty and the additives in the oil lose effectiveness over time. Here we will re-refine waste lube oil for reuse as lube oil, restoring the oil to its original condition, which is at its highest, best and most environmentally responsible use. And we had an excellent article just after the opening, written by Mara Patterson-Soden in the Local Observer. And she talked about Gladstone housing the second plant in the country, the other one being Wagga Wagga, of course, with a refinery 3 times the size that can process 100 million litres of oil a year, the same amount of waste oil that Queensland produces annually. It will slash the need to dig for more oil while cutting carbon emissions by 300 million tonnes a year. 300 million tonnes a year. That's a great success story, and it's a success story promoting business, promoting industry, but at the same time looking after the environment. And you know, you can do things which are good for the environment, you can do things which help protect our clean green image, whilst at the same time adding jobs and adding investment and adding money into a regional city such as Gladstone. Now, the Yarwun-based site has many construction jobs. A lot of the training came from Wagga Wagga. Of course, the construction phase is now over, and its production phase at full tilt. Now, it's a great success story, and I must say that according to Mr Rose, Southern Oil injects $15 million into the region's economy each year, and that's just tremendous. But interestingly, I've also got a media release from Mr Rose, who says that Australia's world-class oil re-refining industry has been saved from potential disaster in the Abbott government's federal budget. Now, here's an industry leader talking about how the Coalition's recent budget, brought down by the member for North Sydney, the Treasurer, how his industry has been helped by that budget. A decision by the government to continue to support Australia's oil recycling industry through the Product Stewardship for Oil scheme means the successful environmental scheme will be properly funded into the future. This is a media release from Southern Oil. Southern Oil, which owns and operates 2 of Australia's 4 oil re-refining plants, said the budget announcement would make a significant positive difference to continuing the support for Category 1 oil re-recyclers, their re-refiners. Southern Oil manager Tim Rose, who operates the Southern Oil Refinery in Wagga Wagga, New South Wales, and the Northern Oil Refinery in Gladstone, Queensland, with joint venture partner JJ Richards and Sons, said the budget outcome was a great relief. And he praised the Environment Minister, Greg Hunt, here at the table, Industry Minister Ian Macfarlane, who was there at the March 12 opening, and the member for Flynn, as well as myself, for our commitment to ensuring the oil re-refining industry was protected. And here's an interesting quote. For the past few months, the oil re-refining industry has been working hard to ensure the PSO scheme was not changed to the detriment of re-refiners. Now, the Northern Oil Refinery was built based on a policy which Tim Rose and JJ Richards and Sons hoped would continue. a faith put in. They put in the faith based on information that they'd received from the previous Labor government, and he was so thankful that our government is not only looking after the environment but looking after industry as well by backing his particular venture. Now, he talks about a recent report of the federal government had made recommendations to change the PSO, which could be a disaster for true oil re-refining. So we told the government loud and often about our concerns, and indeed he did. I know he talked to the member for Flynn. He also talked to me, and I have to say that that the Minister for the Environment at the table also had discussions with this company because he knew how important it was. He knew how important it was not just for industry, but how important it was for the environment, and that's so important. The government has listened and kept their PSO scheme promises that were made before the Abbott government was even elected. And here we have again an industry leader talking about how we keep our promises, how we keep our commitments that we made, and certainly commitments that are good for the environment and commitments which are good for business and industry. The budget outcome means re-refiners like Southern Oil, this is Tim Rose speaking, can continue to recycle lube oil and remove hundreds of thousands of greenhouse gas emissions from the Australian environment every year. And that is a great success story. That is a great success story. The Southern Oil, Northern Oil re-refining process is a cradle-to-cradle treatment of oil and the highest form of recycling, keeping lube oil in productive use, delivering improved oil security through avoided imports and a lower carbon footprint compared to the production of imported crude. And I know, and we heard Ken O'Dowd talk before about how good the re-refined oil looked. And if I could just hold that up, I know it's a prop, but it almost looks as good as this water. It is quite incredible the way that that they take used oil and take the additives and the nasties, as Ken O'Dowd talked about, out and convert it into oil that can be reused over and over and over again. How good is that for the environment? How good is that for industry, and particularly for a city, a regional city like Gladstone, right in central Queensland, right at the heart of so much of Australia's valuable mining, valuable manufacturing industries. It's the next generation in waste oil management. The Northern Oil Refinery is a first for Queensland, and I don't think they've finished yet. I don't think they've finished yet, Member for Flynn. I think we can see, thanks to your great support, your great advocacy, the Minister for the Environment's great support as well, I think we will see this particular firm expand, possibly into Western Australia, possibly even into South Australia in future, because they can see a niche market, something that's going to be good for industry, something that's certainly going to be good for the environment. They can see a niche market into the future to reconvert the used oil into oil that can be used over and over and over again. This re-refining plant at Gladstone can process 100% of Queensland's annual production of used lube oil, and that represents a wonderful environmental opportunity for the state and for industry, and particularly for central Queensland, which is so well represented in the seat of Flynn by Ken O'Dowd. It's the only facility capable of recycling waste lube oil back into base lube oil in Queensland. And I know how much the Deputy Prime Minister, currently the Acting Prime Minister, I know how much value he places on Northern Oil Refinery. I know how interested he was in seeing that this facility was open, as well as the member for Groom, who the Minister for the Industry, because he's getting on with the job of showing that Tony Abbott is the Infrastructure Prime Minister and getting on with the job of making Australia open for business. Now, they have had at both Wagga Wagga and Gladstone strong support from waste oil producers such as mines and local governments to direct that their waste lube oil is re-refined rather than burned and wasted, which is what happens all too often right throughout Australia. And we do use a lot of oil. We do use a lot of, and the carbon footprint is very high. And that's why plants such as this are getting on with the job of reconverting it. Our re-refining process produces no waste. Every component is reused, and 99% of the lube oil component in the waste oil is recovered as high-quality lube oil for reuse. What a fantastic outcome. What a great economic and environmental story this is. It's happening in Gladstone, in regional Queensland, 40 direct jobs and supporting many, many more direct jobs. And I know it wasn't just the training that they did at Wagga Wagga, but also Advanced Communications, a good Wagga Wagga firm, also helped put some of the communications into that Gladstone facility. Tim Rose needs to be commended on his initiative, on his entrepreneurship, and certainly this bill deserves every bit of support. I know it has the support for the member for Flynn. I know it has the support for the Minister for the Environment, who is, as I say, doing a fantastic job in ensuring that that jobs which are environmentally safe and good for industry are being ticked off, so that we can be open for business. We can fix up the debt and deficit that we've inherited from Labor. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.